Hello, welcome to the International Business Conversations. My name is Irina Koch, and today my guest is Ayla Olvera. Ayla, hello, how are you?
Hey, good. How are you doing?
I'm well, thank you. Thank you very
Good.
much for joining me today. Can you please introduce yourself and tell me what you do?
Yeah, of course. Hey, guys. My name is Ayla Olvera. I'm based out of Chicago. I currently work as a supply chain analyst for Intel, and I work within the global reverse logistics group where I'm part of a team that helps to manage all of the return products that come back to Intel from our end customers and our partner customers as well.
Can you please share some key takeaways from what you do and maybe share some more elaborated specifics of your job?
Sure. Um, I know that supply chain analyst is probably a very general and very broad definition or title, but more specifically, I work within a group called BSD or Business Solutions Development. And what we do is we partner with our internal business units to understand what sort of support they need on the reverse logistics part when they launch a new product. So we partner with our business units that want to release new products or have products out in the marketplace. And we help to understand what they're looking for in terms of supporting their customers, offering warranty support, and then managing all of their end of life for their product. And so once we understand what they're looking for in terms of supporting their end user or their end customer, then we help to set the logistical component of the return. So the stuff that we don't really like to think about as consumers, I work to help facilitate the logistical component. So whether it's setting up exchange models, warranty support, customer service, I help to orchestrate that with a lot of our other reverse logistics partners behind the scenes. And so that's basically it. I just help to set that up and understand what our business units are looking for. And on top of that, we also work with our Intel Reclaim partner, whereas if there are return products that come back to us, we help to keep them out of landfill. And we do this by a variety of different ways. If a product is coming back and it's perfectly usable, sometimes customers change their mind or buy the wrong thing. How many times have we done that? Then we help to find a secondary market buyer that's interested in buying that product. So, and then lastly, as a last resort, if the product maybe is damaged or had a technical failure or just isn't repairable, then we send it to a reclaim vendor where they pulverize it and they strip precious metals from it. And we try to do as much as we can with those utilized resources, whether it's sending it to different industries, recycling it for future use. And so reverse logistics has a lot of different categories, but all of those fall under what we end up managing.
Have you been always interested in sustainability?
I would say so. I can't say necessarily that it was always part of my professional life, but it was definitely a passion of mine. I enjoyed probably my favorite subject in high school was biology, and I'd like to understand how the life cycle of things came to be and how they were. I mean, literally, the environment is a perfect circular economy. And so, we try to do, I think as humans, when we're producing stuff, we try to follow a similar biomimicry of our products, or at least we'd like to. But I think it sounds kind of weird, but the focus around supply chain, I think specifically, and waste came at a later time. And that was just in my time with the Peace Corps and just seeing how that there were a lot of opportunities for a small community to do something better or to do more with waste. And after I learned a little bit more about what supply chain was and how I felt I can make a bigger difference within supply chain in terms of reducing waste. I wanted to focus on making that because I think sometimes we think that we have to make super major changes or adaptations to our lifestyle or processes. In reality, we could start by making small changes and then have those, make small adjustments, and those will create a ripple effect onto the rest of the supply chain. So yeah, hopefully that answers your question.
Yes, it does. You mentioned that you worked at the Peace Corps. I know that you worked at the Peace Corps in Peru as the economic development specialist for 2 years. How did this experience shape your views on sustainability?
I think more than anything, because I wasn't working directly with a sustainability topic, I was working on economic development, primarily helping entrepreneurs, young entrepreneurs that were looking to start a small business, or women who were looking to support their families. But one thing that I realized was they were able to build businesses with the things around them. And I know that when people think about business and starting a business, they don't really think about sustainability, or they don't really like the environmental impact of that doesn't necessarily come up. But I could tell that these entrepreneurs were considering, and almost exclusively, products that were renewable. So an example is I worked with a group of artisan women who would take these strands of grass that grew by the ocean side, that they would dry them out and they would dye them with a natural dye. So this is all stuff that they had within their communities that was renewable, regenerated every season. And they were able to make basically a life and a business out of this product, out of this material that was near to them. The same thing with, I lived in a community that was really heavy into agriculture, and there were students who were looking to, again, utilize their same livestock that they had, again, regenerated every season, to build a business. And I think that oftentimes we don't think about the stuff around us. We think about the stuff that we need to bring to us to build a business, but they made a business out of the things around them. I thought that was super cool. And it literally is a sustainable business, because they're always going to have, the grass is growing by the ocean side, and my students were always going to have, their farms and their livestock to depend on to continue to grow their business and find new customers.
If I would ask you to pick one thing that your experience at Peace Corps taught you, what would that be?
Oh gosh, that's a great question. Probably something that I probably had more to do with my own personal growth and my own time to reflect, because 2 years to some people might sound like a lot or a little, but I think there were experiences that were extremely unique, not just for in my situation, but very unique to most of the people in of my age at that time. I would say, more than anything, the thing that I learned the most was taking time to reflect on what impact I wanted to create in the world around me. And so I gave myself the time to give back to the local community in Peru, to be a good representative and steward of the US, but also to sort of readjust and say, like, what do I want? What do I want to, what positive things do I want to give back to the world? And so that time there gave me the opportunity to realize I want to go back to school. I want to get my MBA, because I want to be able to make a difference. And the way that I can make a difference is by having this position, by being able to influence, depending on my role, but being able to make a difference. And I felt like this was getting an MBA, going back to school, investing in myself was the best way that I can give back to the world. And so, that I would say that was the most impactful thing that I got out of my service there.
Let's now talk about waste.
Yes.
There are many products that are made in such a way that it's much easier to just go and buy a new one. If something is broken, if the product is broken, it's much easier to go and buy a new product rather than repair the broken part. can you please talk about what are the possible remedies to eliminate the waste?
And you're talking about, are you thinking on the consumer end or the manufacturing end? Does it matter?
I think it's both,
Sure.
because as a consumers, for consumers it may be
Mhm.
just an easy option. You go to the store and you just buy new stuff when the thing is broken. From the manufacturer position, there may be something else that I'm not considering because I'm not a manufacturer. So if you can perhaps talk about both sides.
Sure. Yeah. So when I think about the manufacturer side of repairability, I do feel that manufacturers, especially electronic manufacturers, have a responsibility to make their products modular, to make their products repairable, to make their products designed in a way that allow for them to be taken apart, put back together, and have those components that are integral to the part or to the device to be repaired, replaced, upgraded, whatever that looks like, right? Um, Keeping a product in use for as long as possible is, I think, the best way that you can mitigate your environmental impact, because you have to think about everything that goes into a device, right? Resources, the precious metals that you have to get from all places around the world. If a manufacturer is able to start out designing a piece, designing a product that is able to be repaired, upgraded, that's a whole nother level, right? That's like software instead of hardware. But if they're able to make it repairable, that's a huge step. I don't think a lot of manufacturers think about that when they're initially designing it. And I think for some products, the technology hasn't gotten there. Now, on the consumer side, I think we have a lot more power in that. As a consumer, we have a voice whenever we buy something, whenever we shop around, whenever we buy a product that is modular, that is repairable and upgradable. We're telling that manufacturer, we support your work, we're supporting the efforts and the design that you're putting out into the world. And by purchasing and supporting them, with your money, you're able to tell that company that you value that product, that you value the way that they're designing that, or the way that they're making that easier for you. So I think both entities have a responsibility and have a lot more power in their hands than they sometimes understand. But I think that as consumers, thankfully, I think our voices are being heard, and more of these device manufacturers are listening and understanding the importance of repairability to us, and that they themselves will end up winning because they're going to get more customers buying their products, because it is an investment when you're buying a new phone or laptop or a car. You want to be able to keep it as long as possible, especially after you've worked so hard to buy it.
What is the grand idea of the circular economy? And can you please provide some examples where circular economy was successfully implemented?
Sure. So the circular economy, let me just take a step back. I'll two sentences of the traditional linear economy is what most of us are familiar with, right? We take the manufacturer takes, makes, we use, and then we dispose of a product. Something like if you buy a bottle of water from a store, you drink the bottle, or you drink the water, throw out the bottle. That's a linear economy, right? A circular economy looks at taking, making, using, and continuing to reuse. So whether that's recycling, whether that's repairing, whether that's reusing that same product or that same uh, service, or whatever you're utilizing, keeping it in use for as long as possible. Um, so if we're thinking about a product that has been that has followed a circular design or a circular economy very well, I think there are a number of them. And no product and no actual design is perfect. I will say that. I would say the only perfect circular economy that we can observe is nature. trees die, plants die, animals die, and they're regenerated into the environment, right? And I think, as I mentioned before, I think that as we move more towards a circular economy, there are efforts to replicate that process within products, and that's called biomimicry, trying to design something that looks like nature, but having it designed by humans. And I would say examples of circular economy within our own environment. I think a company that I always go back to and I really admire is Patagonia. They do a good job of sourcing their materials well, sourcing their cotton well, using um, paying equitable wages to their labor force, and then trying to keep their products in use for as long as possible. So if you have a Patagonia jacket or pants or sweater and it gets a hole in it because you went hiking, or you've had it for 20 years and now it's becoming undone, you send it back to them, they'll repair it and they'll send it back to you, regardless of when you bought it, regardless of how you bought it. And I think that encourages people to think about, this product was an investment, I'm going to keep it and it's going to last me for a very, very long time. And if it does end up getting a hole in it, or it gets ruined or something, I have the security of knowing that the company backs that product up, right? So there's no perfect circular economy out there or perfect product, but I would say that is one of the companies that I like coming back to, because they've had these values as part of their origin story, and also they've had this commitment to their customers, but also to the environment from the very start of their company.
Now, listening to you, I think that the not perfect, but the good circular economy is the
Yeah,
one that you actually are using or trying to use, trying to implement the ideas of the circular economy. So it's not always perfect, but being on the way, that
exactly.
makes that makes a huge contribution.
Exactly.
Let's talk about the reverse logistics. What is reverse logistics and why is it efficient?
Yeah, reverse logistics has been around for a very long time, and we're I think it's finally getting the attention it deserves. I think we've all experienced some level of reverse logistics in our lives. We've all ordered things online and we've all sent stuff back that we didn't want or that just didn't fit right. And that's reverse logistics. It's when a customer or the end user receives a product and either it doesn't work, they don't want it anymore, or it's the wrong thing, and they have to figure out a way to get it. How do we get it from the customer to back to the manufacturer, or back to the manufacturer's possession? Um, I think there's a lot of opportunity in terms of making that part of the supply chain as efficient as possible. But I think the coolest part about reverse logistics is that it's our last chance. It's like we're sifting through and looking at all of these options of how can we continue to keep this product in use? How do we mitigate this product from ending up in a landfill? And so our job is almost to understand the product well, understand its value, understand the resources that it has within it, and then finding a way to keep it in use and still bring back money towards the business. So, Amazon has millions and millions and millions of products that come back to them globally, right? They have a lot of decisions to make. They can either automate those decisions or have a system that automatically understands the value of the product and then sends it back to a specific market, right? I think a lot of people think about it as waste, but I think about it as an opportunity to keep something in use, to bring value to a secondary market, and to keep value within the company that produced it too. I think it's a responsibility. I think I like it because I think most people don't like to think about that part of logistics, but I think it's cool because it gives us an opportunity to find to find value in what most people assume is just trash or scrap.
Can you please tell me how your work contributes to the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, and what are you most proud of?
Yeah, I do remember. I know Intel has a number of those goals in line overall, right? Just to level set our position within reverse logistics in Intel, we are a very small player within Intel. There's under, I think, 150 of us reverse logistics employees as part of Intel, and Intel has over 110,000 employees globally. So we're a very small component of that. But what we do, what I'm really proud of, and what I'm really proud of our team of doing is helping to reduce landfill waste. So one of our primary goals that falls in line with not just the Intel corporate goal, but also the UN goal is net zero waste to landfill. So currently our small group that manages about 10 million products per year of returns has contributed less than 1% to landfill rates. And if you think about it, when you're thinking about 10 million products per year coming back that we're managing out of 150 employees in our small group, I think that's really impressive that we're able to keep that much product still in use, still circulating, and out of a landfill. That could and that's and I know Intel has a larger goal of reducing manufacturing waste and reducing manufacturing waste to landfill. So that's something that I know that we're continuing to work towards, and we're continuing to stay underneath the 1% for reverse logistics.
What can we people do to contribute to the development of the circular economy?
Yeah, I as I said before, I think the best way that we can all make a difference, or at least influence the companies or the organizations around us, is to continue to support those companies, those products that are looking to be more sustainable and are looking to stay within that circular economy concept. So buying products that are repairable, buying from companies that support repairability, upgradability, versus a more of a temporary lifestyle brand, right? So like, when you think about clothing, we all know, or at least we've heard about fast fashion, right? Instead of supporting that concept, buying and investing into companies and products that are maybe a little bit more, but have that durability and dependability of lasting longer after each wash. And so it's your dollar or your euro or your pound is a vote, right? It's a vote in support of that company or that product. And so I think we all work really hard to buy the things that we like, and we have a decision and a choice and a vote to make when we say with our money, I support you and I like this product, so here is my hard-earned money.
Let's now talk about student perspective. So
Yeah.
you were a business student yourself.
Yes.
From your university learning experience, what are those 3 key areas of knowledge that helped you to ultimately get a job as a supply chain analyst at Intel?
Oh, I think that gives you a lot of credit. I don't know if I deserve all that credit, but there's a lot of new topics and especially professionals that I met during my 2 years in grad school. I don't know that I can necessarily narrow it down to those three ideas, but supply chain was something that was new to me. I had read about it. I had talk to students who have been working in supply chain or professionals that have been working in supply chain to understand what it's all about, because it's such a diverse and massive undertaking. As we've all understood supply chain constraints this last year, we've all sort of been exposed to it, even if we didn't know about it before. I think more than anything, it was the people that I met, the professors that I spoke with, and then my own curiosity coming into business school of wanting to understand as much as I could about supply chain. But because I had that interest in sustainability and in making processes less wasteful, I felt like I came in looking for those answers or asking the professor for those questions. And when they had guest speakers, then it would be really cool to ask them about where they saw themselves improving supply chains, whether it's to make them more lean or more efficient, to making them less wasteful. And so it was, for me at least, one thing that I really learned in business school is networking. And I don't know if your students are the same way, but for us in business school, it's super important to network with as many people as possible, not just for our own professional development, but it's also a great way to learn about new opportunities. And so that's how I stumbled into Intel. They visited campus looking to talk to students. And because we're such a, Michigan State is a leader in supply chain, they were looking to hire for their supply chain groups. And so it just, I was very purposeful, and I made sure to tell any company that I spoke with or any recruiter or anyone that I was networking with that my passion was a cross section between supply chain and sustainability. So, I made sure to understand the value I brought to the table and how I can, where I saw myself impacting, making a difference or improving their own supply chains. But that took some time. That definitely took some work to practice and get the pitch down, and working with my peers and working with mentors and working with career services on that. But did something right. I talked to the right people, or at least I said the right things, and it ended up working out. So, and now I'm in an awesome role and at a great company that I'm doing exactly what I was hoping that could end up leaving business school with, is working at a cross section of supply chain and sustainability. And yeah, it's really cool to be able to work on a passion like this.
My students will be very interested to know, apart from those subject specific knowledge, what are the extracurricular activities or maybe personal qualities that are important for Intel?
Yeah, important for Intel. I think I think regardless of Intel, but definitely, and I can only speak from my own experience, right? Everyone brings something completely different to the table. A lot of my colleagues that I've met have a completely different background than I do. But I know what worked for me was, you know, I took school as an opportunity, as the best 2 years I could, to ask as many questions as I could, get to know as many people as I possibly can. Um, and it was a time for growth and reflection. So I made sure to be as involved as possible. I joined the board and I became president of the Graduate Supply Chain Association. So I represented MBAs within our supply chain concentration. And I think that just demonstrates obviously passion for the subject, but also a level of leadership. I think most companies are looking for employees, or are looking for people to work with that have a level of leadership, that are confident enough to understand their own value, what they bring to the table, and be able to lead others. Because we are a big company. We do have, eventually, they do invest a lot in us. And so I know that they want us to be successful in our roles. They want us to continue to lead. And eventually, I want to be able to have a team that I can that I can lead or that I can influence and impact, right, in a positive way that'll bring back value to Intel. Leadership is a great one, confidence, and then networking, I would say, are the primary things I think that I spent so much of business school developing, working on, and honestly, I'm still perfecting that. It's still something that I think is valuable, not just for Intel, but in my own personal growth, right? Is like talking to cool people like you and being able to impact and influence students to even if it's just one or two that are beginning to question or are beginning to wonder if they're in the right place. But I would say leadership, networking, and building confidence are three of the greatest takeaways that I had within my time at business school.
Can you please offer a word of advice for students?
Yes. I would say I think about my time as a student, not just as a grad student, but undergrad and throughout my life. I wasn't never really a very outgoing or confident kid growing up, but I think one of the things that I've learned, and I hope that I continue to tell this to kids in my shoes, people in my shoes, is don't be afraid of asking, or don't be afraid, period, like dot dot dot. um, don't be afraid to reach out to someone like myself or some of my colleagues on LinkedIn and asking for a conversation or asking questions. Don't be afraid to take a plunge and take a risk in starting a new venture or taking a new job or moving to a new country. I would say a lot of people, I'm not a very traditional I would say employee of Intel or a student. No one, the majority of people my age aren't taking 2 years to live in an emerging economy like Peru, right? So don't be afraid. Whatever the end of that sentence is for you, I would say continue to seek the things that make you a little bit scared, because it more than likely will lead to somewhere really, really cool.
Thank you very much, Ayla, for this enjoyable interview. I think the your advice to students is just so much resonates with what I would say. Don't be afraid. I think that should be a slogan of this video. Thank you so
Yeah.
much for your time.
Absolutely. Yeah, it was great to meet you. And as I mentioned before, don't be afraid to reach out. If you guys have questions about Intel, have questions about business school, or just have questions in general that you want to run by me, I'd be happy to chat. You can find me on LinkedIn.
Thank you so much. Bye bye.
Take care. See ya.